What is up guys, Speed here, and today I'm bringing you guys a kind of a mini tier list because I did do a full tier list. However, I felt that it would be way too long of a video. There's way too many heroes in Dota. I'm doing instead a revised tier list where I kind of just go over what I think are the best and the worst heroes. And then if you are interested in seeing the full tier list that I had made previously, I will have a PNG of it down in the description, and I would love to hear what you guys think about my list. Dota is a very opinion-based game, or what I mean by that is that people have very different opinions, so this is my opinion on a tier list. Let me know what you guys think. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know that I covered a lot of my ST tier characters on the gameleap website. So I made guides for Pangolier and Bounty recently, just going over a replay analysis where I break them down in depth and talk about how to pretty much abuse these broken heroes, so definitely check that out if you're interested. Alright, starting from the bottom, I'm going to go over what I think is probably the worst heroes in Dota. First off being Abaddon. Now, he recently got a buff that I actually think makes him a little bit more viable because he actually can obtain CS in the lane. However, I don't think the hero's place in Dota really makes a lot of sense. If you want to purge, you should just have Oracle, basically. You don't want to have your purge on an off-lane farming hero, especially because Aphotic Shield just doesn't allow you to farm. Your Q is quite good at harassing and securing CS, but I think your passive just makes your hero terrible, and your ultimate doesn't make much sense. Basically, you don't do anything that well. Next up is AA. Now, he recently got a buff to his ult, which makes it pretty potent. It was only 1 second, but still, definitely can matter. However, the problem with the hero is just his lane. Now, do I think this hero is decent in solo queue, especially in lower MMRs? Yes. But for the most part, I would stay away from AA, and if you're looking to gain MMR as a support, I would recommend a Lane Dominator or one of the A tier supports that I have listed. Next up is Anti-Mage. I really think this hero is just complete garbage right now. Even if you have a good lane, it's probably because they didn't dual lane you and they sent a tri-lane top, which means that the enemy carry will most likely have free farm as well. And because of this, you just have to match up 1v1 against some other hero, and I feel like a lot of the popular carries will just kill the rest of your team while you're farming up your meta, because even when you have Battle Fury meta, you're very easily killed. You basically need 4 or 5 items before you really come online, unless it's a particularly good AM game where your team just happens to be dominating. So yeah, I would put this hero pretty low. Bloodseeker. Now, I've seen Zai playing Bloodseeker, and he seems to make the hero work sometimes, but I feel like it just doesn't do that much damage. You have to play around your spells so much that basically if you cast them in properly, you're going to be useless for nearly the entire fight, and I think that just makes the hero terrible. Next up is Invoker. Invoker has to be one of the worst mid laners right now. I feel like it just gets crushed by not almost every hero, I shouldn't say that, but it gets crushed by so many heroes. It takes so many items to come online, and even when it comes online, you have to either be a godded Invoker to make it work, or have a million stuns so that you can actually hit your spells. Because this hero is just crazy difficult, and I feel like even if you get to the point where you can make it look good, it's often not that good. Next up is Legion. Now, people will probably disagree with me on that, simply because Legion does kind of have like this niche where you have a purge, you're decent in lane, and then you have duel, which is one of the better disables, at least on single target. Not in Dota, it's definitely not one of the better Dota disables, but on a single target. But my problem with the hero is you don't have a great way to farm, right? I mean, you can kind of push out lanes with your Q, but it's annoying because you have to clean them up. You don't gank particularly well. Like if you rush Blink, you seemingly lack damage in my opinion. And if you rush an other item, you lack the ability to close the gap, so even with the high movement speed. So I really think this hero just kind of lacks something, in my opinion. I feel like I'd rather pick some other initiator or potential lane dominator every single game rather than Legion. Next up is Mirana. Now, Mirana has been popular for a while, or previous to this patch. She's definitely not popular now, which is why she's easily at the bottom of my list. I feel like for a while, Mirana was this kind of like nice pick where you could just pick it almost any game. It would do alright. It would just do fine. Now, I think Mirana just gets shadowed by a lot of the S tier characters on my list that can go mid, where they just roam around and do so much damage. Mirana just doesn't do that much in lane. She doesn't farm fast. She doesn't scale particularly well. I just don't think she does really anything that good. Next up we have Slark. Now, Slark and Anti-Mage are probably my 2 least favorite carries right now. I think I'd almost have any other hard carry than Slark. I think this hero is just terrible. Now that it lost to leash damage, it feels near impossible to kill anyone, and the skill build is really awkward. Like, I don't know if you're supposed to get Essence, Shift, or Pounce. I really don't understand this hero right now. I don't know what it's good for. I'd rather have a Bounty carry, even a Reiki carry, to be honest, rather than a Slark. Next we have Underlord. Now, my problem with Underlord is he was kind of an aura buyer in the past, but I think people came to the realization that you can buy auras on every hero, so the hero's bad. That's it. And then finally is Treant. Now, Treant has received some buffs that make Living Armor a scary spell. However, that's all he has, in my opinion. Leech Seed got nerfed, so it's bad in lane, especially early on. and your Q is just awful. Any dot just destroys your lane. You have low movement speed. You can't trade because of how your passive works. I just feel like this hero doesn't do anything particularly well. It doesn't lane well. Team fight's okay, if you can even team fight after the garbage laning stage. So yeah, I just don't think this hero is viable at all. Alright, now let's move on to my A tier list. A few heroes that I think are particularly good. Now, I had a much larger A and B tier list, and I even moved up one of the B's to A because I really want to talk about it. But let's just get into it. First off is Crystal Maiden. Now that she gets 20 armor on her ult, I think in specific games, she's actually just insane. You can play her as a 4 or a 5, and basically if there's a Troll Warlord, a Juggernaut, Terrorblade, PL, all these, like, basically all these agility carries, or just carries in general that don't have a stun, or a great way of cancelling her ult, are just hard countered by CM. She does a ton of magical damage, which is great against them in lane, and then her ultimate just makes team fighting miserable for them, especially in the early game. So I really like CM as a support right now. Definitely one of my favorites to have. Next up is Chen. I would actually put Chen at like C or D for solo queue, in particular low mark solo queue. I don't think the coordination is enough to actually make this hero worth it at all. You can't farm really, so I wouldn't pick Chen to be honest, but I do think it's a very good hero if you know how to play around it. Simply because recall is super good, you can have a creep to win lanes, you can gank very effectively with your recall as I was saying, and you have a ton of heals that make it really hard to kill. Of course, in particular. Next up is Jug. I think Jug's one of the better carries still, even though he's been consistently getting nerfed, but he hasn't been getting nerfed by enough, so I think he's quite good as a carry. He just gives you a good lane, and he scales well. I don't think you have to say more than that about Jug. Next up is Doom. I really like Doom because I think he's one of the better solo laners, and the meta is shifting towards solo laning, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the hero is definitely going to become better and better, and what he provides for your team, which is an aura buyer and a team fighter, is very useful in my opinion. Next up is Lion, and in particular I think Lion is best as a 4 right now. I think he needs farm, and how he absorb plays him by rushing Ags is very interesting. You can pretty much win fights with good ultimates with your AoE Finger of Death, and for that I really like Lycan in the position 4. I said Lycan. You know, Lycan in the position 4 is actually one of the worst position 4 heroes, so don't pick it, please. And then my last hero, which is one I moved up from B from my total tier list, is Alk. Now, I really think Alk has some untapped potential that people just aren't using. I understand that like a lot of these roaming heroes, such as Ember or Pango or even Lesh mid, basically if you give them a free lane, they're going to ruin your side lanes. However, if they mess up at all, I think Alk can hit a nice early game timing, especially with all the buffs he's been getting recently, to just run over the game, where basically you'll get like a 13-minute radiance if you go like phase boots soul ring radiance, and you can just carry. Because you can get your next item at like 18 minutes or even 17 minutes, and just continue snowballing from there. I think Alk has a lot of untapped potential, and I would recommend picking him in pubs, especially for low MR, where people don't coordinate ganks, and you can often get away with any lane. For S tier characters, these are some of my personal favorites of the patch. First off, Bounty Hunter. I don't even know what to say about Bounty. He just kind of does it all. He can be any position in Dota, literally any position in my opinion, even 5. He provides you with pretty strong lanes with Janata and the great slow. From your E, in addition, Shuriken is good in lane as well, only a 9-second cooldown for one of the highest damage nukes in the game, level 1 damage nukes I should say. And Track is just absurd. You don't have to break invis when using it, so you have to buy a million sentries if you actually want to catch him, and it gives you 150 gold level 1, which is just so much. You steal gold, you get 150 gold from Track, you get vision, and you do a ton of damage, so I think Bounty is just easily one of the top tier heroes of the patch. Next up is Ember Spirit. Ember Spirit has received a lot of attention recently from almost every single team, basically because the hero got a buff to Sleight of Fist, and people figured out some pretty good skill builds and item builds for the hero that really make him enabled. For that, I think he's one of the better mid laners. In fact, you can put him safe lane, which makes him even better in S tier in my opinion, because you can flex the hero and make him work in almost every single game, even as an early pick. Next up is Pangolier. Pangolier is easily broken right now. I think this hero is definitely going to get nerfed recently, so I'd play it now if you still can. Basically, it does a ton with almost no items. As long as you have levels and a javelin, you're going to kill things. It really doesn't matter. You're hard to kill. You do a ton of damage. You clear waves, you farm, your lane is actually pretty decent mid. I don't know what Pango really does bad, to be honest. I feel like Pango does almost everything besides a few mid matchups, but even then, you don't have to win your lane. Next up is Leshrac. I think Leshrac is easily, I hesitate to say it's one of the best offlaners right now, because I think there are some ways to counter it, but for the most part, Leshrac is so deadly. Leshrac with a good lane, or even just a good lane partner, is almost guaranteed to create havoc. Even if you somehow manage to shut him down mid-game, he'll create so much pressure by taking your towers and just forcing fights that his carry will often just get farmed, and then you're done for. So I definitely would put Leshrac at top tier. He takes buildings, he lanes well, he fights well, and he creates a lot of space. So really like Leshrac, especially for solo queue. And finally is Io. Now, I'm not actually certain about this, but I feel like I had to put Io at ARS. I mean, it's still Io. Yeah. Okay, thank you guys for watching this mini revised tier list. If you have any complaints or you feel like you would throw heroes in different spots, definitely let me know. But before you say anything in the comments, definitely check out the full tier list that I made. I had a ton doing this. Yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think after you watch or check out the full tier list that I made. I'm definitely excited to hear what you guys have to say. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, but before I leave you, I just want to let you know and remind you that over at gameleap.com we have thousands and thousands of guides made just like this one by top tier pros so that you can learn the game of Dota in depth and gain MMR as fast as possible. Thanks for watching, guys.